Right, so the really huge story of the week, obviously, is this Doge expose on the amount of money that USAID has been laundering through the system and putting into all sorts of countries for all sorts of crazy reasons. Oh, and buying our corporate media. Here's President Trump.
Did you see what happened yesterday where they found hundreds of millions of dollars of money was fraudulently given to newspapers and, I guess, Politico? I don't know, they're here. Good. I hope you're enjoying your breakfast.
You still got it. Let me give you a little more context before I have you guys chime in. This is from the Daily Wire. As the Trump administration continues cutting waste from the federal government, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the left-wing media outlet Politico will no longer receive millions of dollars from the federal government that she said was essentially subsidizing subscriptions. I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room, Leavitt began. I can confirm that more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayer's dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will be seeing significant savings because of the effort. Mike, before we get into some of the rather hysterical reaction to all of this by the Democrats and the media, I mean, this is exactly what Trump ran on. This is exactly what Elon was on stage with him talking about. This is a rare moment of people in government doing what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, which I think is why it's so frightening to people in government, right? Because they're not used to that. So it's astounding. If you think about it, let's just touch on what you just pointed out from Karoline Leavitt. The idea that government money would be given to media outlets. Last time I checked, there are for-profit organizations for subscriptions. Is astounding. But look, there's two parts to this. One is, that the USAID was set up as an autonomous organization back in 1961, right? And it was set up as an independent organization, in part because the administration at the time, the Kennedy administration, didn't want to be seen as directing where U.S. government money was going to be spent, right? The other part of this is that's fine, right? There's a lot of sort of autonomous or independent government organizations. That's fine if the power within the government that has the purse strings, and that would be, last time I checked, Congress, does their job, right? And they're not. So Congress is not auditing any of this. It's not as if USAID over the years provides a line item budget every year and says, like any organization should, right? And said, here's what we're proposing, here's what we want as a budget. And then Congress goes through and does their job and refuses and says, okay, not this, yes, this is a responsible use of taxpayer dollars. They haven't done that for years and years. So there's two parts to this. You can gut USAID, you can put a smaller version of it within State Department, because there are legitimate reasons to have an organization like that can project soft power for the U.S., right, and push back against other entities that don't have our interests at heart, like the Chinese regime, which spends a lot of money on Belt and Road initiatives. So there's a reason to have it, but look, you can do that, but unless Congress starts doing their job and provides an audit function and a responsibility for the tax dollars that, again, they're supposed to be holding the purse strings, we're still going to be screwed.
I also think that there's sort of a meta story going on with this, which gets to how they've manufactured consent so much over these last couple of years. I want to read you this tweet I put up yesterday, and Elon retweeted it, so this thing caught fire. and Walter, I want your take on this. The USAID story is way bigger than most people realize. It's not just that they funded Politico, the New York Times, et cetera, but then the articles in those publications were used as sources all over CNN, NBC News, et cetera, to further push their agenda. This is how they laundered the lies. And this is like, every time you'd turn on Meet the Press, you'd have Chuck Todd, who interestingly just last week lost his job officially. I wonder if there's a connection there. He'd be citing a story on Politico to then bring on a Democrat politician to comment on that story. So you can see how the system used this to manufacture consent, launder the lies, whatever phrase you want to use.